On this edition of Southern Newsweek, dozens of scooters descend on Wanaka for an annual rally, Dunedin breakfast radio host Owen Rooney retires, and Queenstown streets are being dug up for a much needed infrastructure makeover. Hi, I'm Daryl Baser. About 60 riders took part in this year's annual motor scooter rally in Wanaka. Rally convener Paul van Klinky organised the 90-kilometre long day trip for the classic bikes, complete with a backup vehicle ready for any mechanical breakdowns.
About 60 motor scooters took part in this year's annual Upper Clutha Scooter Hooter rally in Wanaka on Saturday. Now in its 10th year, the event is organised by local fish and game ranger Paul van Klinky, who always makes an effort to plan an engaging and challenging tour visiting local points of interest.
A long ride, gravel, we've got forwards, we've got tracks, dual purpose tracks we're going to be riding on. We've got an amazing spot for lunch, and we've got a couple of places of interest to go and visit as well.
The event attracts participants from across the South Island, almost exclusively riding classic commuter scooters from the 60s, 70s and 80s.
He organises a good ride, interesting scenery around the area and events through the day.
Dad brought us this year.
Oh, you haven't come before?
No, first year. So for the 10th anniversary, we finally got the invite.
This year's ride was 90 kilometres and with only one petrol station along the way. And Van Klinky says a lot of planning goes into making the ride an enjoyable one.
Safety's first. We've got a traffic management plan in place. We've got a backup vehicle. We can only put 3 bikes on that. We always have breakdowns, so there's quite a bit to think about on the ride today. Yeah.
In Wanaka, the South today.
Dunedin Radio has lost a well-known voice from the airwaves with the retirement of DJ Owen Rooney. Rooney started off in radio 40 years ago and did his final breakfast show recently.
Now for you and Oamaru, a fine day apart from some cloud this morning, so we still easy at your place.
Veteran broadcaster Owen Rooney is retiring after his last 6 a.m. to noon shift at Radio Dunedin today. The 65-year-old says he remembers well the very first interview he did at Radio Scenic Land in Greymouth with visiting Malaysian-born pop singer Kamal.
This was in 1980, so I remember him well because I couldn't believe the number of rings he had on his finger when he walked into the studio in Greymouth. So Greymouth, Tawananui, Whangarei, and then back to Dunedin, and it's been a good 40 years.
Rooney worked at Radio New Zealand full-time until 1996. He left to become a rubbish truck driver, but kept on working part-time for radio as well. 10 years later, he returned to full-time work, this time for Radio Dunedin. For him, the music has always been there just to fill the gaps between the interviews. But the way the music is sourced has changed from the vinyl records of the 1980s to the computer track listings of the 21st century.
The skill of radio is still the same. It doesn't change, the one-to-one communication. The method of transmission, where's the 45s? You know? It's all computerised now, which can be a little bit daunting if you're not familiar with them and not good at using computers. But the actual art of broadcasting will never change. It's a one-to-one communication.
Rooney said he was going to finish off his show with a Celtic folk song by the singer from Dire Straits.
The last song will be I can tell you what it's going to be. It's going to be Mark Knopfler, Piper to the End, and that'll start at about 7 minutes to 12 and finish just before the news.
Rooney says he plans to spend time catching up on handyman jobs at his daughter's house and his own home. In Dunedin, the South today.
Queenstown's CBD has never been in such a state of flux. The Queenstown Lakes District Council says its contractors are making up for lost time due to Level 4 restrictions as workers press on with a swag of construction projects around the town centre. Queenstown is currently a sea of orange cones with multiple big-ticket projects underway.
Obviously quite a lot happening around the town centre with Kahanui Atahuna, our alliance. While they're independent projects, they're all quite interrelated in that we've got Lakeview and then we've got services providing water and wastewater infrastructure to Lakeview. Then we've got the street upgrade works, and as of yesterday we kicked off work on stage 1 of the arterials project, linking State Highway 6A with Gorge Road, and really creating that space in the town centre for the public transport interchange on Stanley Street.
Work on the Brecon Street part of the town centre upgrade started last week, although one of the first jobs, to fell 5 large eucalyptus trees, has been put on hold for an ecological report to be prepared after local arborists sparked a public outcry. QLDC Property and Infrastructure General Manager Peter Hansby says the lockdown caused some delays, but the council's working with contractors to keep up the momentum and hit their targets before the peak summer trading season arrives.
We're well set up to deliver this package of work, and so taking advantage of that and bringing any other components into it, we're pretty keen to get quite a bit of work done in one hit.
The alliance between the government, council, mana whenua and the New Zealand Transport Agency Waka Kotahi was officially named Ka Huanui a Tahuna in July, and Hansby says they're being funded by a combination of council and government shovel-ready COVID-19 recovery funding.
You know, it's quite a lot of different pieces of infrastructure that are all coming together at the same time, and you know, it's difficult getting around town, but we took the view that get in, go hard and get it all done in one hit.
Construction of the first stage of the town centre arterial road began last week, with work on a new stormwater line on Suburb Street. The work will be completed in 50-metre sections, taking about 3 months. The whole first stage project is expected to take 3 years to complete. The QLDC says these projects are set to pause over the Christmas and New Year periods. In Queenstown, the South Today. Students passing through the University of Otago campus were invited to try a refreshing glass of ginger beer, brewed from leftover bread recently. The drinks stall was run by the Department of Food Science as part of the International Food Waste Awareness Day.
Bread is one of the most wasted food products in New Zealand, with much of it being thrown away before it even reaches its use-by date. But yesterday, Dr. Graham Ayres of the University of Otago's Department of Food Science demonstrated how to make a delicious, non-alcoholic ginger beer by extracting the starch and carbohydrate from leftover bread.
This is an example. The syrup that we make from extracting the starch, carbohydrate from the bread, converted into sugars, that could be used for a whole host of applications, from other beverages into cereal products, smoothies, anything where you might have need a sugar replacer.
And the flavour base for the free ginger beer that passing students were invited to taste came largely from citrus fruit that would otherwise have gone to waste.
A kilo of ginger, so that's the base flavour, along with the sugar coming from the bread. We've also flavoured it with some spices, some coriander seed, and then on top of that, to give it some really extra zing, we got some rescued citrus fruit, lemons and oranges that were just starting to go a bit mouldy, but still really good. We've trimmed those off and we've juiced that, zested that, and we've made a syrup that we've added to flavour up the ginger beer, give it a really citrus zing.
Tying in with International Food Waste Awareness Day, the display on the university's Union lawn was part of a larger theme of academic research in how to avoid food waste.
We are particularly interested in highlighting the climate impact of food waste. So it's estimated that over a third of all food produced globally is wasted, which is a phenomenal amount of food. And obviously that has different implications. It's really bad socially when we've got hungry people. We know over 1 in 5 Kiwis don't have enough food to eat. It's bad for our wallets in terms of spending money on food that could have been wasted, and it's actually really, really bad for the environment as well.
The day also included displays which demonstrated facts such as the amount of energy an average person wastes by throwing away food each year is the same as it would take to power all these fridges. In Dunedin, the South Today.
Still to come on Southern Newsweek, thousands of sheep briefly block the highway near Omarama, and the Oamaru Farmers Market celebrates 10 years of selling produce to the public. See you after the break. No mai anō, welcome back. Motorists were asked to be patient while sheep were being mustered along the road near Omarama recently. The mob of 5,000 sheep were on the road in their annual trek to the shearing sheds.
About 5,000 sheep, as a mix of ewes, hoggets and wethers, were moved from near Lake Waitaki to Otamatata Station yesterday, passing Lake Benmore on the way. Musterers say the traffic on State Highway 1 was mostly courteous and understanding.
It's a bit hairy here and again, but no, all in all, most of the traffic's pretty polite and patient, so we're getting through it slowly.
Otamatata Station has been farmed by the Cameron family for 6 generations, and the mob were on their annual trek to the shearing sheds.
We're shearing them, so we'll draft them up and divide them between wethers and ewe hoggets, and then they'll go through and get shorn and go back out on the hill.
The musterers were hoping to arrive at the shearing sheds about mid-afternoon. Near Omarama, the South Today.
A mother and son have teamed up to buy an established Dunedin hairdressing salon. Originally hailing from the UK, one of the pair has a lifetime's experience, while the other has worked in agriculture in 3 countries. Walking into their family-owned salon, Hannah Spellman and her son Hayden say the decision to buy the established business came easily.
Hayden came to me with the idea. He saw the shop for sale. I was working out at a different barber's at the time. Been cutting hair for 31 years and sort of didn't think I'd own a shop again, but the opportunity came up. We came and looked at it. Hayden does all the bookkeeping and all of the business side, which I hate doing. And then I do the cutting and the talking, which is my thing, so yeah.
Hannah Spellman has owned and run hair salons in the United Kingdom during 3 decades in the trade, and bought hair hunters on Dunedin's George Street in the first week of August, just before the nation went into its second COVID-19 level 4 lockdown.
It's a calculated risk, so we had the luxury of knowing what was involved this time round, so I think with having the protocols already in place, you kind of knew what you were getting into, so I was quite confident that we could handle it.
Where the mother and son duo took ownership of the business just before lockdown, they chose to revamp the shop, taking out ceiling tiles and painting the roof and beams. Hayden says they've dropped into the Kiwi lifestyle quite quickly, and that's true of him more so, as he's not always been a business manager.
Yes. So I was working out on the Tyree, worked on a dairy farm for 2 years here. Still good friends with them, but kind of moved on to something that's more my own, which is nice.
So he's got another business as well where he sells furniture and appliances, so he can run the 2 businesses alongside each other, which works really well.
Yeah. The Spellmans immigrated from Great Britain 3 years ago and have firmly put down roots in Dunedin, establishing their family home in North East Valley, which Hannah describes as a lovely community. As well as his own business interests and agricultural career, Hayden is thankful he grew up spending many hours in hair salons.
I've fortunately had a good insight to it, watching Mum cut hair and work in various places, so I could understand what was involved, and as far as business goes, it's quite a nice, smooth running business, and just felt comfortable. I understand what's involved.
There's been a smooth transition for Hair Hunters clientele, with the previous owner, Jonathan Khalifa, currently renting a chair from the Spellmans until he moves to Christchurch at the end of the year. Hair Hunters uses a booking-only system, which Hannah Spellman says puts their patrons' minds at ease. In Dunedin, the South Today. Close to 200 people turned out for the farmers' market in Oamaru over the weekend. The market was allowed to increase its 100-person capacity just in time to celebrate being open most Sundays in Oamaru Harbour.
Oamaru Farmers Market celebrated 10 years of selling food and produce to the local community every Sunday from their collection of stalls near Oamaru Harbour. Co-manager Taka Mandawana says Sunday was an opportunity to recognise the support the market has received from the public over the last decade.
We want to thank the community for always supporting us throughout the years.
After the government lifted its 100-person cap at farmers' markets last week, about 180 turned up for this one, with a celebratory cake as a way of saying thank you to their loyal customers.
It's been an awesome day. As you can see, we've got lots of people here that have come to celebrate with us. We've also had some cake and some treats for the kids and some music, and it's just been a fun day.
Organisers say the weekly market has grown since it first started, with a wide range of products now for sale. In Oamaru, the South Today.
The Animal Attic is amongst the rafters in the Otago Museum, housing a vast collection of creatures. The museum is planning to run a wild Dunedin-inspired family tour this weekend before the school holidays, with staff ready to share stories of the animal residents.
Unusual creatures peer out from every corner at the Otago Museum's Animal Attic. Natural science curator Emma Burns said the collection dates back to the beginnings of the museum.
When the museum first began in 1865, our first curators, when they arrived here from the UK, went about collecting material from New Zealand and adding that to their collection, and then often would trade New Zealand material overseas. And with that, those funds and those trades would acquire a lot of animals from overseas as well. And the point of that was to try and create a collection that represented the diversity of life to help teach the students at the University of Otago and then eventually the public as well.
The attic houses thousands of species, including insects, fish and carnivores. A popular exhibit is a jar of 7 rats called the Rat King.
Basically it's a family of baby rats who've had their tails knotted together and fallen from the nest, and would have given the accounts clerk who found it a bit of a fright when it fell from rafters of the Keith Ramsey building, which was down by the harbour back in the 1930s. And they got such a fright that they grabbed a pitchfork and tried to sort of chase after it, and obviously caught it and brought it to the museum where they were preserved into a jar. And there's an additional rat as well, which they believe was the mother, who was possibly trying to protect her wee babies before from the pitchfork wielding clerk.
In Dunedin for the South Today.
After the break on Southern Newsweek, a shopper has a near miss with a falling pole at a Dunedin supermarket, and youngsters learn about stress in Queenstown with a free bungee jump. See you after the break. A Dunedin shopper is lucky to be alive after a pole fell on her car as she was putting groceries into the back seat on Wednesday. Witnesses say a woman who was loading her shopping into this Volkswagen Passat station wagon narrowly missed being hit by this light pole, which has partially crushed her car. Senior Sergeant Ian Paulin of Dunedin Police says the driver of this Hyundai SUV had a minor medical event, causing her vehicle to hit the concrete pole, sending it crashing onto the station wagon opposite. The incident was attended by Fire and Emergency NZ, Police and St John. Senior Sergeant Paulin says the driver of the Volkswagen was a bit shaken up and was being looked after by Countdown staff. Police say all occupants of the vehicles are uninjured and both vehicles were insured. In Dunedin, the South Today. Almost twice as many people as expected turned out for a fishing competition at the head of Lake Wakatipu on Saturday. The funds raised from the annual event will go back to the Glenorchy community.
Organisers of the 40th annual Glenorchy Fishing Competition on Lake Wakatipu this last weekend were hoping to attract about 150 entrants. But thanks to the lovely spring weather, that number almost doubled to 275 people out in boats and along the lakeshore, hoping to land a prize-winning fish.
It's the 40th year of the fishing comp, and for once the weather is decent, so we're not surprised, but we're very happy.
Organiser Jessica Burke says with all the different age categories and anglers in with a chance of hooking a brown or rainbow trout or even a salmon, there were a lot of prizes to be given away at the end of the day.
A ton of prize categories. There's a lot of chances to win. We even do categories for best hard luck story, smallest fish, there's even an ugliest fish prize. So we hope to be able to give a lot of prizes away today.
And the funds raised are set to go back into the local community at the top of the lake.
We're raising money for the Glenorchy Playgroup to support our running costs for the year, help buy like pipe cleaners, markers, arts and crafts supplies, all the stuff that kids love, and just keep the playgroup going.
In Glenorchy, the South Today.
Ngāi Tahu has welcomed the signing of a Southland aquaculture agreement with the government. The historic agreement comes after 7 years of hard mahi. Representatives of Hokanui, Waihopai, Awarua and Oraka Aparima Papatipu Runaka, along with Te Ohu Kaimoana Chief Executive Lisa Te Hiuhiu and Conservation Minister Kiritapu Allen, signing an historic agreement providing for marine farming off the coast of Rakiura, Stewart Island. Minister Allen calling it history in the making.
Yeah, look, this is a really important day for Southland as a region, for the Crown and for Ngāi Tahu. This agreement is the product of 7 years of work, 7 years of negotiation, resulting in this particular area which will be set aside for aquaculture development purposes. 16.6 hectares plus just over $1 million will be injected into this region. So the total value of the package is just under $4 million there. So in terms of one, honouring the aquaculture settlement and agreement, this is a significant output.
Ngāi Tahu has been advocating for its rights in the marine aquaculture sector since the 1992 fisheries settlement. The Māori Commercial Aquaculture Claims Settlement Act was introduced in 2004, and the government has been settling claims ever since. MPI Director of Aquaculture at Fisheries New Zealand, Matt Bartholomew, says this is a key part of a series of agreements with iwi across Aotearoa.
The aquaculture settlement's sort of a fundamental start for aquaculture for most iwi, but it's only the start. The outcomes come when we take those settlement assets and we can deliver on the aspirations for Ngāi Tahu and for the other iwi around the country that have aquaculture settlements to be a core part of the sector on their own terms and with their own aspirations at the heart of it.
Te Ohu Kaimoana works to advance Māori interests in the marine environment, including customary fisheries, commercial fisheries and aquaculture, as well as providing policy and fisheries management to advise iwi and the wider Māori community. Te Taitonga MP Reno Terekatne says settlements like this will benefit the Murihiku Rohi.
It's great to be able to fulfil our obligations as the Crown in relation to the aquaculture settlement for iwi, and in this case the Ngāi Tahu here in the southern region. It's a culmination of many years of very hard work, but working closely to identify and find the suitable area, and then also to be able to work with all of the finer details in terms of the establishment of the space. And so again, it's as the Te Taitonga MP also, it's great to be able to support future economic development for the Murihiku region.
The Southland Agreement had been under discussion for 7 years and provides Ngāi Tahu marine space to develop aquaculture in a 16.6 hectare area. The iwi will still need to apply for resource consent for any marine farming activity. In Bluff, the South Today. Youngsters had the chance to face their fears and learn about stress at a bungee jump session recently. The free bungee jumps were provided to first-year high school pupils as part of a new program offered by AJ Hackett.
AJ Hackett, the company that first introduced bungee jumping as a tourist venture, is offering youngsters who are in their first year of high school a chance to learn about stress.
In school they've been learning about resilience and coping with stress, and they've been given some techniques to cope with that, such as breathing exercises. And now they're coming to apply it in the real world, coming to do a bungee jump, the extreme end of dealing with stress.
After a few false starts, Anika Takamawana from Cromwell High School was one of the pupils who completed a bungee jump off the old wooden Kawarau Bridge.
The first time I kind of freaked out and didn't really get out of the thing, and then I kind of went and watched a few more jumps. Went back out again, kind of freaked out again, went back in. Then I went out, kind of stopped thinking and just jumped, and I'm glad I did.
As part of their class, the pupils have been wearing heart rate monitors to better understand how stress affects the human body.
So these guys are 13, 14-year-olds, and we're using what's called human biofeedback. So they've got heart rate monitors on, sounds fancy, but it's a really simple heart rate monitor on their arms, and they're using them while they go and do a walk during the day and as well as jumping off the bridge. And they'll be able to look and see, when they watch their video of they're doing their bungee, see their heart rate and how it changes when they're standing on the edge of a 43-metre high bridge.
One of the lessons from the course was that doing your best, no matter the outcome, is an important goal.
It doesn't matter if you didn't do it the first time or the second or the third. As long as you tried your best, it doesn't matter. That's kind of what we learned.
AJ Hackett provided the jumps to the school for free, with hopes of expanding the program to other schools across New Zealand. In Queenstown, the South Today.
And that wraps up this edition of Southern Newsweek. For the latest news from the Southern region, head online to odt.co.nz. Thanks for joining us. Ka kite anō.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.